Welcome to the Infuse Compassion podcast, hosted by me, Amy Quisenberry.
And me, Mark Carpenter.
We are on a mission to make this world a kinder place for us all by bringing healthier human connection to communities, families, and organizations of all types and sizes.
Our goal is to create stronger relationships, more inspired teams, increased trust, and improved results.
So let's get started with more ways to infuse compassion into our world.
Welcome, compassionators, to this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. So glad you're with us. Amy and I are going to take some time today to reflect on a conversation that we had recently with Erika Coleman. And she talked about this idea of even achieving. Not overachieving, not underachieving, but even achieving. I can't even get those words out of my mouth. But as creating some balance in our lives to where we're achieving, but without the high levels of stress that kind of drive us down and that come at some pretty serious physical and emotional costs for us. So, Amy, I would love to get your perspective on what stood out to you in our conversation with Erika.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. One of the things that I wrote down, she didn't say this, but when she was telling her story in the beginning, what I wrote down was self-imposed pressure.
Yeah.
That is what stood out to me. And I know I do this. I'm curious, Mark, does that self-imposed pressure, is that something that you're like, oh, I know that? Is that something that you feel like you do as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting because I think the self-imposed pressure comes from our perceptions. I'm saying it as perceptions of other imposed pressures or societal pressures. And what I mean by that is, particularly in today's world of social media, there's so much on there about what other people are doing and the great things they're achieving that we feel like if I'm not achieving at that level, I must be underachieving.
Yeah.
And then we start putting self-imposed pressure on ourselves to do more, maybe even more than our hearts are telling us that we actually need to do.
Yeah. And I know you and I, one thing, Mark, that we talk about a lot and our guests talk about is the intentionality. Right. And it's really looking at this and saying, hold on, what is important? I know you and I made a big decision today and we just started to get intentional, right? We just started to look at, hold on, what's really important to us, right? And I think that going back and taking stock and saying, hold on, what's really, really important here? And one of the things that I love that she said that really stood out was and people have said this forever, right? It's not the destination, it's the journey, right? She rephrased that and she said, it's the direction. Like, it's not necessarily, do I need to hit this goal? But am I heading in the right direction toward that? And imagine the pressure that can take off of for the overachievers out there, right? The people who are task and goal oriented and we've got to keep things moving forward and da-da-da-da-da. Yes, we do. I get that. But are you making positive forward progress in the direction that you want to make progress in? And then, like she said, taking the time, and I think she may have said this off camera, taking the time to celebrate the little wins, not just the big wins, but the little wins. You know, she took a moment off camera with us to celebrate the wins of our podcast, which is so exciting, you know, sharing the background with her. So those are a couple of things. There's so much more, but I'd love to invite you to share some of the things that stood out as well.
Well, and along those same lines, I think this is where the self-imposed pressures start with an externally imposed pressure. We talk so much about SMART goals, and she mentioned this, that she got out of that mode of saying, I have to have SMART goals. But we're told this all the time. This is a standard business principle. Have a goal that's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And then we have to go toward that goal. We have to achieve that thing. But if we focus on direction, then what we can do is say, you know what, that goal that I put out there, that actually isn't in the right direction for me. But if we're only focused on that end result, we keep going down that path till we get to it, and we get to it and we don't feel satisfied because it's not the direction our heart tells us we should be going in the first place. The cool thing about focusing on direction is that you can change that direction. You can start on a direction and then go, this actually isn't going to work for us. I need to make a little shift here, a little adjustment in the direction that I'm going to take. I find this all the time if I'm hiking or snowshoeing in the mountains here in Utah where I live. There are times that I start off and maybe this path doesn't give me where I wanted to go. This happened to me just a couple of weeks ago. I was hiking on this trail and the trail diverged and I took one and I started hiking on it. I went for about 10 minutes and I went, this isn't going the direction I wanted to go. Well, I didn't want to just keep going. So sometimes you have to go back and then get on the path that's going to take you actually where you want to go. And so I love that focus on direction being important, not just the end result. We're going to get results as long as we're on the right direction and as long as we keep moving along on that direction.
Right. I want to stay here with you for just a minute because SMART goals is something that's near and dear to my heart, being an expert in the performance management realm, right? And I want to spotlight the A and the R, right? Is it attainable? And is it relevant? And that's the core to the story. A lot of times when we're creating goals for our lives at work, whatever it is, we can pass over those two. And if we stop and go, hold on, is this attainable? Sometimes the goal is too big and we need to scale this down. Or sometimes it's like, wait a second. Yes, this will get me somewhere, but does it get me your path, right? This is getting me somewhere. I'm getting exercise. It's beautiful around me. I'm getting fresh air. I'm having a great time, but it's not getting me where it's not relevant. It's not getting me where I want to be. And when we can scale that back and say, hold on, or I should say, peel that back and say, hold on, is this attainable? And is this relevant? Really, really? And if it's not, what might that look like? And that's okay, right?
And I think the attainable and relevant also connect to the time bound. Because I've seen this so many times in my business that they say, well, we need to get it done by here. And then we don't make the connection between, but is that attainable in that time frame?
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about scaling too, that we may need to scale a little bit and have stepwise goals that are going to get us to that final destination that we want to get to. But then focus on the journey along the way where you have some checkpoints to make sure that you are moving in the right direction. This is actually helping us accomplish what we're trying to accomplish and doing it in a way that we can be healthy at the end too, that we're not burning ourselves out. Erika made a focus on that time bound part of it, that there was always, I'm going to set a date, I'm going to get to this, I'm going to make this happen. And I've experienced that too. And that's what ramps up the stress level, especially as you start in that direction and you realize, this path's a little more rocky and a little tougher to get along than I thought it was. This may take more time than we actually have given to do it. Yeah. And so then you have to start looking at reallocating resources. But again, to get there and do it in a way that's healthy for everybody.
Yeah. No, yes, absolutely. What else? Because I touched on a couple, you just touched on one. So I'd love to hear what else jumped out at you. Really,
I'm actually having a great time just bouncing off of yours. But I'll start one, and you can bounce off of this one.
Okay.
I loved the point she also made that her mentor and coach gave her about don't throw away the hard things.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, see, that gets you. I got you. I knew it would, Amy.
Yes.
But don't throw away those hard things, because those hard things, even though they're hard, that's where we learn. That's where we grow. We grow in the struggle. Yes. We can learn to be a better version of ourselves. I love how Erika said, that some of those struggles helped her to be more compassionate with herself,
Mm-hmm.
which allowed her to be more compassionate with other people. And so recognize that struggles are there for a reason, and we need to find out what we need to learn within that struggle. Yeah, give me your thoughts on that one.
I wrote down, we learn in the struggle. And that is such a great reminder, because when we're in it, right? Listen, we all know when we're in the struggle, right? When we are in that, sometimes the clouds can be really dark. They can be really dark, and the days can be really long and really difficult. But when we can, poke our head out just enough to say, hold on, there is a lesson here. There is growth. What is happening? What is the message that's coming through to me that I need to learn, to hear, to realize? It's almost like the clouds part, ta-da! And the sunshine comes through, because we've learned our lesson, we're released, and we can move on, right? I mean, it is a really powerful transformation when we can make that happen. And I'm going to take it one step further, how our champion, right? I loved this so much, because when she described herself better at welcoming those who could have helped me, that was one of the things. I asked her a question, I can't remember what it was, but her response was to be better at welcoming those who could have helped me, is what she said. And she said that really, you are robbing these folks of being a helper, a healer, and to look for a champion. And so much of the time, being in the struggle, being in the darkness, it's literally when I reach out and say, okay, that the change happens. When I stop putting myself in the dark corner and I say, I'm ready for help, that's when so much of the pain and the heartache and the hurt and the darkness gets released, and those clouds open, right?
Yeah. And I also want to add to that, a lot of times it's not just as simple as saying, ooh, what's my lesson here? And then the clouds open and part. Sometimes it is a journey and a struggle to figure out, what is the lesson that I learned from that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so give yourself some grace on having some time to sit in that, to say, where does that come from? Now, that also ties to what you were saying about champions. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the other point that I was going to bring up as well, is sometimes it takes the perspective of another person to help you see the growth that you got through that struggle. That you may not see it yourself, but other people may see it from the outside. Externally, they may see there was growth along that path that's a little harder for us to see. Now, I don't know about you. I am one that I struggle to ask for a champion. I could really relate to what Erika was saying about, oh, I don't want to be a burden on somebody else. I'm the one that helps other people. I don't need help from them. I'm the one that helps people. What are your tips on kind of overcoming that hesitation or that thought process when it comes to finding and engaging a champion?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's such a great question. You know, sometimes I can get blinded by me, right? I'm making it about me, and I'm not realizing that keeping myself in this dark corner is actually hurting the people around me, right? It's sometimes we need, like you said, I love what you came back and said, of sometimes we need to stay in the struggle. Sometimes it's important for us to feel this, to experience this, and to really learn that lesson and to really make that growth happen. But there's also times where I've stayed in it too long. I've spiraled way further than I needed to. And that spiraling hurt the people around me. And so it's really this, Amy, not everything is about you, right? I actually had a
What?
friend say, I know. So me and some friends were in the pool, and two of us were at one end of our pool, two of us were at the other end of our pool. And the two that were at the other end, they were looking at both of us and they were talking. We couldn't hear them. And I was like, "What are you saying about me?" And my friend's like, "Amy, not everything is about you." I was like, "Oh, I was really supposed to hear this. I was really supposed to." And this has saved me from cataclysmic, like spiraling down of, wait a second. Yeah, that's not about me. That's about you. That's not mine.
That reminds me of a time when I was talking with somebody and somebody else came in the room just as we were like ending the conversation. And they said, "Oh, you stopped talking because you were talking about me." And the person I was talking to looked at him and says, "Yeah, we were talking about you, but it got boring, so we stopped." And, and the point that he was making with that was, "You're not that interesting for us to be talking about you. You're just not that high on our radar. Just quit worrying about that." And we all kind of laughed about it.
Yeah,
It wasn't taken as an insult. It was taken as kind of a good natured joke.
yeah.
But it helped me see, yeah, I'm not really that interesting for other people to spend that much time talking about me. I can give that up.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And there's something about I don't know if this happens with men, but for women, it's literally a clock. You turn 50 and you just stop caring. You're like, I mean, you care, but you don't care about stuff like that. Like you're like, yeah, I know I look like an idiot in what I'm wearing, and I'm gonna like fly my freak flag. Like I think I look fantastic right now. And everybody's like, what? Yeah, yeah, it's called me. Like I really don't care. Like and it's so liberating and freeing to be in this place of, I'm really good at doing me, and you can be really good at doing you.
So I want to go back to this topic about champions too.
Oh, thank you for
Um,
bringing us back.
bring us back on track from that little sidebar that we
Yes,
took.
yes, yes.
Um, because you're in professional development. I mean, you help leaders develop. This is your job. This is your role.
Hmm.
How would you coach someone to find a champion? What if you have somebody who says, "Well, yeah, okay, I get the idea of having a champion. I don't even know who to look to. Where could I find a champion? How would you help somebody along that path?"
Yeah, and I think, Erica really gave us guideposts, three critical guideposts for that. She said they need to be somebody who unabashedly cheers for you, right? And they also need to be somebody who like shares their resources with you too. And three is call you out when you are wrong. So
Yeah.
the best thing that you can do is pay attention to how are people showing up in your life? Like, really pay attention. I don't know if I shared this on here before. It's going to go a little off, but it's going to bring us back. Have I talked about the strainer method? I don't
It
think
doesn't
I
sound
have.
familiar to me.
Yeah.
If you have, I couldn't remember it, so our listeners probably can't remember it either. So let's
Okay.
hit it again.
So the reason why I'm going to bring this up is because sometimes there's a lot of people in our life, and it's difficult to tell who those champions are. Not everybody's a champion, and I'm not saying to get rid of everybody who isn't a champion, but sometimes we have people that really aren't good for us at this point in time in our lives. I'll say it that way, right? And when I was in my early 20s, I just used to be like such a giver, like this bleeding heart. This was before I got really, because I've told you, like I got really cold and really hard and like aggressive and abrasive, right? Well, guess how that happened? Because I had this open, soft, sensitive, loving heart that I would just let people walk all over me. And when I got in my early 20s, I was like, I have a lot of users in my life. And they really, like, they show me repeatedly that they really don't care about me. And so I was studying Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who's the expert on death and dying. And she taught me visualization. And through her visualization techniques, I came up with the strainer method, the colander that we drain our pasta in. Okay. And I would put groups of people visually in this strainer and I would shake them. And if they were, I'll say, insignificant enough, really, in my life, right? They would fall through those holes. And the people that were big enough and important enough to me in my life, they stayed in that strainer. And I was literally able to do like this cleanse, complete cleanse. And I had forgotten about it for years. And then recently I brought it back. And I'm like, this is like really, this is gold. This is gold. So for anybody that when we talk about the champion stops and says, I've got a whole lot of noise and I can't even find the champions, try the strainer method.
Yeah. Well, and I like that. And I really like the criteria that Erika gave for that too. And you talked about somebody who will cheer for you, somebody who will also hold you accountable, and someone who will provide resources for you, who has resources they can connect you with.
Yeah.
And part of that challenging you, she made that point about they'll let you know if you're going in the wrong direction. Years ago, I heard this phrase, and at first it sounded kind of weird, but often we're on the wrong side of our eyeballs.
Oh, I've never heard this before. You need to say more.
Yeah. We're on the wrong side of our eyeballs. We can see out here, but we can't see what's going on with us. We need somebody whose eyes are looking this way toward us rather than looking outward from us to be able to call out some of those areas where this looks like you're going in the wrong direction. I think that's the power of a champion, is to have somebody who's on the other side of your eyeballs who can see what's going on with you. It's hard for us sometimes to see the missteps that we take from where we're standing. And so champions also provide that perspective for us.
And I'm telling you, having somebody that will tell you the truth is priceless. It doesn't mean you need to listen and do everything that you say, but surrounding yourself with yes people is like not helpful at all, right? And I intentionally seek out people that have different perspectives than I do. One of the things that, Mark, I love about us is we don't agree on everything, but here's what we do. We talk about it. And then we're like, okay, what's the best way forward? Neither one of us makes it about us. We put our cards on the table, we talk about it transparently, and then we say, okay, what's the best way forward? And I love that because neither one of us are yes people to the other one, right? But our values align so clearly. And so when we think about that champion, I want to go back to your question because I want to make sure that I answer it clearly. Those three pieces of criteria, I think that a values match is also very important. I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day, and they were talking about one of their coaches. And one of the reasons why they trusted this coach so much is because their values were in alignment. And they really felt that they were not going to steer them in the wrong direction when it came to what was most important to them, and that was their values. And then another piece is like, tell them, reach out to this person, start to build a what is your relationship like with them, right? Start to build. Now, Erika's story, this person had been in their life for a very long time, a friend of the family, right? Not everybody has that. So sometimes there's a few degrees of separation there. Well, start to have the conversation. Reach out. We don't want to go knock on people's doors that we don't know and be like, hey, I heard from a friend of a friend, right? But start to build the relationship and then make sure, now that I'm getting closer and I'm learning more, does this still feel right? Do your research, pay attention. And I always like to say, it's the full body yes, right? Right? That full body yes. Another friend of mine, so the full body yes, your head, your heart, and your gut are all saying yes. So sit in that. Envision yourself having conversations, real conversations about your future with this champion. And how does that feel? How does that look?
Yeah, the other part of that, and Erika talked about this person that had been a family friend that she knew for a long time, but also what did she have to do for that person to become her champion? She had to reach out and ask.
Yes.
Yeah. And so don't expect your champions to just automatically come forward and say, your champion has arrived. Your champion is here. And I think I'm guilty of that I look around and say, well, there's nobody to help me. Well, maybe you need to go ask.
Yeah.
And find that person who's going to resonate with you. And I love the point about the head, heart, and gut, and also a values alignment, because that's going to help you to find a good champion if you can use those criteria. Love that advice.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what else stood out to you? Is there anything else that Erika talked about that we wanted to address?
Yes. I loved what she said in her closing statement, the one tip, because so much of the time when people talk about gratitude, it is giving it to other people. And her focus on gratitude was self-gratitude. And when we think about self-compassion, right, which is so much of her story, she really had to start showing her self-compassion. How often are we really sitting in and like showing gratitude for ourselves? This may sound a little silly to some people. I've said it to a few people, and some love it, and other people look at me like I have 15 eyeballs. I rub my feet and I thank them for everything that they do for me. I do this on a regular basis. Like, think about what they have to endure on any given day, right? And so I have such gratitude for my feet and what they do for me every single day. I don't tell them every day, but on a regular basis, I rub them and I thank them, and I just like to sit in the gratitude of what whoever's listening, look at what you're doing and how amazing it is and the difference that you're making. And that's really powerful, to just stop and sit in that and honor it and appreciate it, even when things don't work out the way you wanted. But look at what you did do. Right?
And I think this is a great place for us to wrap up by just saying our gratitude for all of our compassionators, all of our listeners. And that's one of the things that you can feel grateful for about yourself, that you are committed enough to compassion and humanity that you spend time with us. You wouldn't be here if that wasn't something that you were committed to. And that in and of itself makes you a great person. That you have that attitude, not just listening to our podcast, but that you care enough that you want to infuse compassion into the world. And so I'll say a big thank you to all of you. And I hope all of you say a big thank you to yourselves for having that in your lives and having that in your priorities. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. Amy, would you like to wrap up with any additional words?
I think you covered it perfectly, Mark.
Thanks, everyone. Join us again next week.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please share a review and like the podcast so other compassionators can join us. Until next time, let's all do something each day to infuse compassion into the world. For more information on our guests, see the show notes. For more information on Mark and Amy, go to infusecompassion.com.